Thank you for joining Full Sail Partners live stream on charting a course for impactful AEC marketing meetings. My name is Sarah Ganella. I'm one of the partners at Full Sail Partners, and we're looking forward to an interactive session today. Throughout this live stream, we will be posing questions to the audience, so be sure to interact with us. Today, I have with me Amanda Roussel. She is a senior CRM consultant with Full Sail Partners. Welcome, Amanda.
Hi there, Sarah. Thanks for having me today. I'm excited to have this conversation, especially hearing back from our audience throughout the session.
Absolutely. And so today we're going to be focusing on the firm's marketing and BD and sales meetings, and not just making them productive, but impactful. And so I know, Amanda, one of the things you said is that worth having a meeting. So that's really the purpose of today.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so today we're going to be really focusing on running an effective marketing, business development, and sales meeting. And previously, we actually did a blog post that is about running effective meetings. And Lindsay's going to be adding that into our chat. So if you want to check that out. However, today we're really going to be focusing on the marketing, business development, and sales meeting. And you might call it marketing, you might call it sales. So it really incorporates all of those different areas. And so first, let's start off with an interactive question for the audience. So the question is, what's one thing you wish to change in your BD, marketing, or sales meetings this year? And so if you can add into the chat something that you want to change, and then we'll be checking back. But for now, let's go ahead and chat with Amanda a little bit and get started. And so, Amanda, why are marketing and BD meetings so inefficient today?
I hear quite a few things in the position that I'm in now. So I do come from the AE industry, working in business development and marketing for 15 years before joining with Full Sail. So I have the firsthand experience as well as I hear from a lot of clients now. And it sounds like the meetings are very transactional. They may not always be necessary, much less impactful. It typically sounds like someone runs a list from somewhere, whatever their CRM is. Perhaps it's even an Excel list. They distribute it, hope to get back some updates, update it wherever it is supposed to be living, and then they review those updates during the meeting. Whereas the focus is on the updates, not so much, okay, what do we need to do next to win this work? Or how is this progressing? Who needs more resources? So I find those inefficiencies come from broken agendas, and there's data everywhere, and there might not be a clear course for the meeting to be effective.
I like that. And so we have a couple of comments that have come in. And so Christopher says that I want to freshen up our meetings. So hopefully today we'll be able to help you freshen up your meetings. And then we have Nora being active with our time with BD Actives and spend less time talking about the projects. Okay. And then we have Michelle, consistent participation. And consistent meeting formats across the business. All right. And then we have a LinkedIn user, clearer priorities at the end of the meeting. And we have Lisa, how to not review the same information month after month with seller doers who can't get their assigned tasks done. We take for accountability, but ... All right. And then Carrie has to say pre-meeting prep and engagement. And then Lance says, I have my notebook ready for notes. So perfect. And so thank you for that. Let's get into maybe what are some ways to improve running meetings, Amanda?
You know, based off the list of comments that just came in, which you notice how broad those were. That was great.
Yeah.
Accountability is a huge area here. And sometimes that starts with who's participating in the meeting, who's running the meeting, and who's holding everyone accountable. And that can look different. Well, it does look different firm to firm. And a lot of it's with the firm culture. But I'll say having executive support on the accountability, on the participation can really speed things along in that area. But that does depend on a firm's culture and how they approach it. So some firms have figured out how to beautifully run these meetings, and that's been great to kind of hear about throughout CRM worlds that I'm a part of. Okay. And some are just starting to figure it out. So it could be starting with discussing and deciding on who the right team is for these meetings and what the agenda should be that's going to work for the firm. Keeping accountability as a key component of it. So having the right people in the right room, talking about the right things. One thing that helps it move efficiently would be having one real-time source of truth for the data. Everyone's working with the same data set. No one had to go to their email to see something. It's just all in one place. Okay. It just streamlines the prep work too. So whoever's facilitating has a lot less prep work to get ready for the meeting, as well as follow-ups after. So a few of those areas together, you can focus on the client relationships, the activities that need to be the priority moving out of that meeting, and action items to continue to win the work.
Yeah. So I'm going to go off script a little bit, ask you a question. So one of the things that I think a lot of times people struggle with is the fluff. I call it the fluff of meetings, but other people see it as engagement. And so it's really like there's a real balance sometimes between making sure, and someone that Lance actually had interviewed the other day, she said something that really sort of stood out to me. If you have people in the meeting that are not participating, are not engaged, then maybe they don't need to be in the meeting. And so that really sort of stood out to me. And I feel like improving running meetings is really one of those things. So the beginning part can sometimes be fluff, like, hey, how you doing? How's your day? You know, those types of things. So sometimes even doing a quick icebreaker to get everybody interactive. And you'll notice even with what we do, we're engaging people immediately with our audience questions. And so that might be other ways to sort of improve the beginning part of meetings as well as, you know, asking people like, hey, I noticed you're not engaged in this particular meeting. You know, is this something that you know, maybe that person doesn't need to be there, or asking them. So I wanted to see what your thoughts were about that.
If you're not passionate about the meeting you're in, you're at the wrong table sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes that is the case. So I love the idea of starting with the icebreakers. And from a facilitator standpoint, that could be a lot. Take turns, get more people engaged, rotate the tasks that have to happen within a meeting, like rotate who gets to do what. So people can find their fit, kind of see what it's like in someone else's shoes. And then they have to be engaged.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, that's part of figuring out who the right participants are. That might shift throughout the year. So if anyone does take even just a few pieces of information we discussed today and implement it into your meetings this year, it's going to evolve. It's going to evolve, hopefully, in a system that works best for you guys within your firms.
Yeah. So I'm going to go to a couple of comments, and then we're also going to ask another question. So Jose says accountability starts from the top down, having the right culture and organizational structure. I agree 100%, probably 150%.
High fives to Jose. So true.
Exactly. Lindsay, who's actually in the background as well. So she's helping us to run this. And so thank you, Lindsay. She said, right people in the right room with the same data. I like that. And then Kim added, love the icebreaker. And so, all right. So we have another question to pose to the group. How often are you holding your BD marketing meetings? today? And then is it weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, something else? So we're curious, how often are you holding your marketing, BD, and sales meetings? And so, Amanda, as we start to really get into things, let's say that we're talking about a bi-weekly BD meeting. Can you walk us through what you would recommend for that bi-weekly meeting? And what are some of the high-level agenda topics or structure of that meeting?
Okay. So again, these are just ideas. If we're going the route of biweekly BD meetings, let's also think about, we might also have quarterly marketing and BD meetings that have a different agenda.
Mm,
Okay. Different focus, topics, maybe even a different group of participants. But think about bi-weekly. That's the most common scenario I hear with firms. You have the right people at the right table. I love hearing individuals' BD highlights from the last 2 weeks, whether it's getting in a meeting with that really hard to reach client, or maybe somebody did close a deal. We'll get to that part in a bit anyway, but
mhm.
just the things that excite you over the last 2 weeks in the BD realm. So kicking off with highlights makes everyone have a voice during that time. And then I kind of like to work backwards. So I like seeing what were we awarded in the last 14 days? What was pushed to the win in the last 14 days and who was responsible for it or which team was, giving them that recognition, and everyone's aware of what new projects were awarded for the firm. And then we jump into pipeline. Okay, so regardless of which CRM you're using to track this data, pipeline is a typical scenario you're going to be looking at. I find a lot of firms start with everything that's in a lead stage. So they start with the things that are furthest away and then work down the list. By the time you get to the end, it's kind of exhausting, right? You've already covered a lot of things. What if, just try it, you start backwards? So what's closest to closing? What have we even been selected for and we just need to sign the contract, right? Like what needs to be done within the firm to push that over? So reviewing the pipeline backwards. And then proposals. It's a part of everyday life. They're not going away. And we all love proposals, right? Do we have the bandwidth to tackle all the proposal workload over the next few weeks? So I think that's important. If you need to shift some resources around, focus on other ones, that's a huge win for everyone around the table, is to make strategic decisions around that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe reviewing what needs a go, no-go decision. Are the right people in the room to make the decision, and what needs to happen to determine whether or not something's a go or no-go? How's the firm doing toward your goal? So if you're looking at things annually, January, fresh start here, right? How are we doing right now in our monthly breakdown compared to where we want to be? And then a project forecast. So how are your profit centers stacking up, or your different organizations within the company? So you can forecast out based off the work you already have and the work you do have in the pipeline that might have a high probability.
Okay. So give me a recap real quick. So if we went back over that list again, you started with getting people excited. So the BD highlights to kick things off. Then what's next on the agenda real quick?
Awarded. What have we been awarded within the last 14 days?
Perfect. So awarded. Then we're going into current pipeline.
Current
Based on
pipeline, backwards.
backwards. Okay. So on descending stage order. And then what's next?
What's next would be reviewing proposal workload.
Workload. Okay. Perfect. And then go,
still
no go.
working backwards, what do we need a go, no go decision on?
Perfect. And then we're going with the goals. Is that correct?
Goals. How are we stacking up right now with our firm goals?
Okay. And then lastly,
project forecast. So we already have some work and we have this work hopefully coming in.
perfect. I like it. And so that really gives you a good agenda. You are covering all the things, you're getting people excited. I like the backwards way of thinking about things. And so let's go over to some of the comments. Let's just see the variety of how often people are meeting. So let me scroll back up. So Chris said once a month. Okay. And then a LinkedIn user said bi-weekly, but they're moving to a weekly. Carrie said monthly. Olivia said bi-weekly, have another bi-weekly, but they also have a 30-minute marketing meeting and 30-minute BD. And then Melissa says we get those two groups together quarterly, but I think it should be more frequently. Valerie, monthly, and Ashley, weekly. And then we have Deanna. We are weekly, but they're moving to bi-weekly. So it's interesting, people trying different things. I noticed the shuffle. And then we have weekly, monthly, and bi-weekly meetings to engage different staff levels in the BD and marketing activity. So you can see it's all over the place. And so we had some others, but I just wanted to give a good variety of different people in how it is that they're doing things. And so thank you for that, and continue to interact with us as we continue forward. And so with that, the next question for the audience is, what's one creative way you've engaged team members during a virtual BD meeting? And so I like this question. I know that I've been doing some things with hours, and so I won't get into those quite yet. And so let's talk about each of the things, Amanda, that you talked about. And so can you show us how you would present, for example, awarded projects?
Sure. So I, of course, had the agenda in mind. So I was able to prep some screenshots. What you are seeing here is a specific ERP system with CRM. What we are talking about is not specific to Dell Tech Vantage Point. So if whatever system you're using, there's pipeline stages, other CRM platforms, even if you're in Excel, I have faith that you have a stage list in there.
Yeah.
Okay. So take this universally here. This is just the example I have is in Dell Tech Vantage Point because that's what I use. Okay. Projects awarded last 14 days. This is just nice to see. Quick snapshot. So I want you to focus on that top dash part. It goes all the way across the dashboard. As soon as I log in the morning, I can see what we've been awarded in the last 14 days. And if we win work today, it could look different when I open it tomorrow. So I'm not getting update every 2 weeks per se.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting a daily update, and I can see which new ones have been awarded, whether it's 1 or 10. I can see the ongoing list, always looking back 14 days to see what's fresh. So personal preference, I like that one on the dashboard. And it gives great visibility.
Okay, great. Well, let's go into the next one. So can you show us how a BD marketing manager would run through pipeline updates?
Yep, let's go ahead and talk through that one. And I noticed the question was a BD or marketing manager. You choose who would be the most appropriate, right?
Sure.
So what we have here is a pipeline. It's not a beautiful funnel right now. Okay, so what you see is a list. And if you notice on the left-hand side, it says stage, and it is going in descending order like we had discussed. In this specific setup, we can talk through the pursuits and update the information on the fly right here in the grid. And it's updating one real-time source. No one's taking notes. Number one rule, don't take notes, just do it. Okay. You can update it right here, but having the focus of, now these are just my stages in the database. Yours might look very different, and that's okay. But I have contract negotiation. Okay, maybe legal's covering those. Maybe we have action items. You determine that right there and take care of it. Update the record if needed. you can see we have one in shortlisted. Okay, how are we doing with the preparation of things? What's our date? Does anyone need more resources? Beautiful. And you go down from there. You can see what's sitting in the client's hands with proposals submitted and keep going. So you have more energy for the things that are closer. So I kind of like to start with those. And then you can keep filtering down and determining what action items are needed next to keep progressing things along.
Okay, perfect. So, how would you recommend going through upcoming proposal workload and potentially evaluating whether some of the leads should be a no go?
Okay. We're going to talk about go, no go in just a moment. So, first, let's think about what does our current proposal workload look like? Now, in this specific screenshot, I just filtered what the last list we were just looking at. This is just filtered to only show us the proposal preparation. We have a column for proposal due. You can see there's kind of one each month. Maybe our marketing team can handle that. We have the technical resources in place. All's good there. Okay,
Hmm.
so maybe that looks good. Maybe if we had 4 coming up later this month, we would need to shift some things around, reallocate responsibilities, or choose the better chance project and focus on that one. You can make those decisions right in the meeting as well. And then for the go, no go, this is so important. And I feel like this doesn't always have a home in a marketing and business development meeting when it should. And perhaps it happens with a different audience, and that's okay too, but it should happen. So I've seen many formal go, no go processes that are
Hmm.
followed. I've seen many that there's a process and it is beautiful, but it is not enforced. Okay. And then you have other scenarios where it's like gut feeling, somebody says we're going or we're not. Okay. Whatever the formality, having a stage prompts you to talk about it or prompts you to ask the questions and get the answers to make the decisions of whether or not you're going to go after it. So with this too, we can see some of these do have a proposal due date. So we can pull in different fields that tell us more about it. You can talk more in depth about a project to help make a decision. And maybe if you have the formal process in your CRM, you can jump in, go through the process right then and there and make a decision.
I like it.
How else have you seen that done, Sarah? Anything else on go, no go? I know that's a
Uh,
hot topic.
yeah, no, it's definitely a hot topic. It's funny, yesterday I was actually doing a demonstration for CRM for the Deltec Vantage, and we were talking about go, no go. And for me, you even if you have the go no go like in a separate Excel spreadsheet, the different calculations and things like that, for me, you still need to have it in a stage so you know that this is what you need to be evaluating. And for me, it's also about the calculation or the number to know like where it's at. And for me, the most important reason for that is that we're constantly getting, new stuff. And so the biggest thing that as a marketing manager was that I needed to know, like, should we or shouldn't we really be going after it? And sometimes I would do my own, like, I think we're actually, here we really probably anything below 50%, for example, we shouldn't really be going after. And then I was able to use that information, even with just that one number, to help to evaluate, see, we shouldn't have been going. So for these, so you can then go back and do historical things. So that then can help you with this process. You could even have that number in here to say, okay, see, we said this one's at 50%. Let's, look at all of the ones that are 60 and higher. And those are the ones, based on our workload in the ones that we'll actually focus on. Does that make sense?
That does. That does make sense. And I like the reference point, like you discussed. Regardless of where it happens, if you end
Mhm.
up with a total go, no go score that prompts the decision,
Mhm.
storing that in here allows you to look back and say, okay, our judgment was correct on this, or it was
Mhm.
way off on this one, and we're going to learn from that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, let's jump into the last one, and then I'll take a look at the audience questions or answers that they gave us. And then I actually have another audience question. So let's talk a little bit about forecasting. How can these meetings help to keep a pulse on how the firm or the department is performing towards their goals?
Okay. So I did run a project forecast report to share with you guys. Across the top, you can see we have it looking at 12 months. So January 24 all the way through December of 24. And on the left-hand side, it's not only showing us projects that we've been awarded, it's also showing us projects in the pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
And this forecast report is using weighted fees, okay, to divvy it out across the months that you said might be your estimated project dates, along with your compensation fees for the projects you've already been awarded. So it gives you a bigger picture of everything together. Now you have the final totals at the bottom. Your finance teams would know what your break-even numbers are. So you would need to get that from your finance team or whoever at your firm might have it, and you can compare it to see, okay, maybe in May, we definitely need more work in May. Let's start pushing for these things to help build up our dollars for that month and moving forward. So you'll be able to see where the slow months might be and adjust your business development actions accordingly.
Yeah. And I also think it's important to look at it from a company perspective. And then also by a department or discipline or however else you break things out, whether it's office, because that can be different. So each office, each department might have a different break even number. And so understanding that can be super helpful as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Was there another thing you wanted to show us on
Yes. Goals. Oh, I have another screenshot. It's
Oh,
back
yeah.
to the dashboard.
Okay.
I can't annotate on here. So I want you to pay attention to the green rectangle dash part. Okay. So that one is year to date projects awarded. January 10th, nothing too crazy has happened here, right? So we're only seeing January, but we can see that maybe our 2024 goal is several million, which breaks down our monthly goal. And we can see how we're tracking toward that. So that specific dash part is just a really easy visual. As
Mm-hmm.
time progresses, you can see how your months stack up on projects that you're being awarded.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And so you also have in here what the goal is. So it's 36 million for the year, 3 million monthly. So we can see we're at 1 million. So just a quick visual to understand where we're at on that. And so I like that a lot. All right, let's go back to some of the answers that people had given us. So give me just a second. Uh, so, um, Jennifer asked, did you build the dashboard internally or have it built by a third party firm? Do you want to answer
This,
that?
yeah, so this one we're looking at is one that I configured within the database. So if you are a Deltek Vantage Point user, this is not an out of the box one, but it is one I configured.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I used the questions I am constantly hearing from clients, and you'll see there are 3 dashboards on the left-hand side. Most of those questions have been covered with dashboards for a variety of clients.
Yeah, and pretty easy to build out. So you don't need any programming experience. So let's see. Someone said, although this is just an example, I love seeing Vantage Point. That's what my firm is moving to. So congratulations, Valerie. We're excited about that for you. If possible, so one of the things was, if possible, can you share your list of stages? And so those can really be anything you want them to be. But maybe, Amanda, we can get those from you and post it afterwards, the stages that you have. And so Christopher said the principals use their gut, but expect everyone else to do the form.
Oh, who was it at the beginning that said accountability starts at the top?
I think that was still Christopher.
I don't remember the name.
Yeah, I'll go back and take a look. And so Jose said, great way to spread out the pipeline. Some up and coming firms looks for the moment and set the organization for failure. So, and then Melissa, let's see what she said. Can you show an example of a go no go process being built into Vantage Point? So I don't think we necessarily have that today, but maybe that's a mini demonstration that we have in the future. What do you think, Amanda?
I'm scared to admit how much I enjoy doing those. So I'm in. Yeah, I think that would be a good one to do in the future. That's a great idea, Melissa.
Perfect. I like it. We're getting ideas already. I can see Lindsay already adding it to the list. She's shaking her head in the background. All right. So, next question for the audience. What's one thing you've learned today that you'll implement at your next marketing, BD, or sales meeting? And so, Amanda, I can tell you, from my experience, I love attending all of these different podcasts and LinkedIn lives and all of those things. And I had mentioned one of the things that I had learned, but I also have been connected with Jennifer Lacey. And one of the things that she had mentioned for me was something she said. She wasn't necessarily saying it to me, but it was more about the icebreakers. So that was something that I incorporated. And then recently, one of the other things we're looking to do is have a different facilitator. So from a marketing perspective or a sales perspective, one of the things that's important is to continue to develop out or build out your team and to share and get them more understanding what it takes to sort of run meetings. So we're actually going to be rotating the meetings as well, where you have a different person that's going to be leading it. So I'm curious, in this particular meeting, do you think it needs to be always the marketing manager, or do you think occasionally maybe someone else could step in to be able to give them practice and understand facilitating?
I feel like it can be a rotating position. It doesn't mean you're running the whole show. You're just keeping everything on task, learning how to engage others, maybe stepping out of your comfort zone, which is always a good thing. Doesn't feel like it, but it is. I love the idea of rotating the facilitator position.
Yeah. And so I really like that. I like the icebreaker. You do have to be mindful with the icebreaker. We actually did a company meeting yesterday, and it took about 17 minutes to get through everyone with the icebreaker question. But for me, it ended up really helping. The simple question was, tell us where you're located today, because we're a virtual firm. And it was fascinating to see where people were at. I was like, what? You're in India? What? You're in Brazil? And so that was fascinating. But then we said, what is the weather like? Because the weather was crazy across the board. So you do have to be mindful in those icebreaker questions. And so we've been playing around with the ability to engage everybody, but how do you also make it short and quick as well?
And what stood out to me with that yesterday, the coldest was like -2.
Yes.
And the warmest was in South Africa, like it was in the 80s.
Yes.
So it was a pretty big range. But also, this does not only apply to virtual settings for anything. This is very much an in-person thing too. If you work next to the person all day, every day, there's still ways to keep people engaged in the meetings.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to go to some of the comments. So Carrie said celebrating wins first. So that really resonated with her. I like that. And so celebrating the wins first, really start with celebrating the group, like congratulations, great job. So not only the initial icebreaker question to get everyone engaged, but then also celebrating as a group the hard work that everybody has put in. All right. Olivia said, do you have some examples of effective icebreakers you could share? And so this is something I've been toying around. Amanda, do you have any thoughts on these?
I kind of rolled mine up into the BD agenda. Just what was your BD win?
Mm-hmm.
You need a BD win every couple of weeks, right? So you're hoping everyone comes to the table with something exciting to share, big or small,
Mm-hmm.
but
I like
it
that.
doesn't have to be work related, but it can be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or it could be something personal. So I can tell you one of the things that a group I'm a part of. So they do a basically tell me something good and tell me something maybe not so good that happened within your week. So and so just being able to let people know some of the things that are going on in your lives. But one, it allows you to celebrate something that you did well, and then it's also acknowledging maybe something crappy that happened this week, just to be able to sort of laugh at it. All right. And so Dodie said, love that icebreaker. She said it really does make it engaging. And Kim said, it is a little scary stepping out of our comfort zone, but excited to see what I learned. And then Lindsay said facilitating a meeting would be a great training opportunity for new marketers and technical staff new to the sales and the BD side. And so thank you guys for that. And so if there are any other thoughts on things that you got from today's presentation, and so go ahead and add those and then I can bring those up. But go ahead. We're going to go ahead and wrap up today's session. And so one of the things I do want to let everyone know is that we do have an upcoming webinar. So Lindsay, who is in the background, is going to be doing automating CRM success with Deltek Vantage Point workflows. That's going to be on January 24th at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And I think she is adding a link as well to be able to sign up for that if you are interested in that. And then also go back and check out that previous blog that we did on just effective meetings overall. So be sure to check that out as well. So Amanda, anything as far as final thoughts, things that you would, want our audience to know, just sort of as a wrap up to today's conversation?
I love that all of you are here today. I know when we saw the number of attendees yesterday on LinkedIn, I did a little happy dance. So that was really exciting, but that tells me people acknowledge there's always ways to improve something.
Yeah.
And like, I don't want you to take the agenda items we talked about today and run them verbatim. Do what works for you, right? Like take different pieces of things and find what works for you and your team. And as you find success in things, celebrate and let us know, because I love to hear the feedback. So shoot us a message and say, hey, tried this, it worked, tried this, it flopped, tried this, we tweaked it. Let us know. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah. I think I would add one more thing that I have found to be really helpful is maybe taking this agenda that Amanda gave you and saying, hey, here's what I'm thinking, and posing it to your group and saying, what do you think? Because one of the best ways to run the meetings that I have continued to find is you have to get engagement. Most of the time, whenever we're saying this is the agenda, and then we're inflexible in sort of, changing it up. So maybe saying, okay, we're going to try this, and, first getting their insight and say, I want to get your feedback. Should we modify? Should we move some things? So for me, effective meetings are always about listening and being flexible and understanding what's going to help your staff be better prepared and to cover the things that are important to them.
And I'd almost say too, you could kind of take things quarterly, like try it for a quarter, see how it works, make adjustments. Then you have a couple more ahead of you until you find your groove.
Yeah, I like that. Experiment, try, and revise.
Absolutely.
So thank you, Amanda, so much for joining us today. I know that For me, it was great just chatting with you, but also you provided a lot of great insight in working with different firms and developing this process. And I hope that our group found it helpful. And let's see, there's some final comments that are coming. And so Christopher said, did you post the link for the next webinar? We did. So that should be out there, but I know it's coming from Lindsay Diven, who's listed there. And then Olivia said, I'm meeting with my team on Friday on this exact topic to revamp our marketing BD meetings. So thank you for the ideas. Something I hope to implement from this presentation is more engagement from all participants. Yay! To maximize the impact of these meetings. So thank you so much, Olivia, for sharing that. And so again, thank you to our audience. Thank you to Amanda, and thank you to all of the people working in the back to help us with today's live stream. So we will see you on the next one.